You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Let's talk about the 2016 campaign. Donald Trump has continued to say that the Russians had nothing to do with his win. It was all him. He also swears, of course, that he got more votes than Hillary Clinton, which we know that he's a lying ass. Now, Russian operatives associated with the St. Petersburg-based internet research agency used social media to conduct an information warfare campaign designed to spread disinformation in the United States. The Senate Intelligence Committee found that no single group of Americans was targeted more than African Americans. Race and related issues were the preferred target of the information warfare campaign designed to divide the country in 2016. Really? They laid that out? Well, my next guest, Shireen Mitchell, the social analyst and diversity strategist, her research last year showed that. And so, Shireen, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered. So, so essentially, the Senate goes, hey, Shireen, you're right.
Exactly. So the challenge is that what happened was what we did was we took the House intelligence release of the 3,500 Russian ads, we dumped it into a database, and then we decided to look at who the targets were based on what the topics were. That was the House Intelligence Committee did it in May, and we did our report before the 2018 elections. And in that instance, we basically said that the ultimate target was to focus on Black identity, to suppress the vote, and to rile up those who had racial tensions against Black people. And if you look at the web of our data, you can actually see that Black identity was connected to everything that was listed, which is like Second Amendment, Islam. We can go down to like connections to Tucker Carlson. Like everything was literally connected in our web with the center and the intensity being Black identity. Outside the web was other groups, which is why this part is really important, because now the Senate Intelligence Committee is basically saying, yes, we now know that not only race was targeted, but African Americans were targeted. So outside our spectrum of the web is Latino and Chicano issues. Outside our web is Native American, indigenous issues. And then there's like this really weird, funky, outside part that's like focused on like memes for white boys in college. But the intensity of the data shows how fierce and how targeted they were on not only using Black identity to suppress the vote, but using Black identity to rile up other groups.
And what you had is you had these Russian trolls who were encouraging Black folks not to vote.
Yes.
You had individuals who were saying Hillary is the exact same as Donald Trump.
Yes.
Don't waste your time. We can go on and on and on. And what happened? There was a 2.4% decrease in Black turnout. And you really had them targeting 18 to 39-year-olds by saying that she was the same as Trump, same policies. They were really amplifying the whole
super
predators comment. All of those different things. They also discovered that one of the biggest Black Lives Matter Facebook pages was actually a Russian front.
Yes. Like there was so many. So the thing is, the way that we came to this information was that we were tracking how often we were seeing these fake accounts pretending to be Black women, and for us who know how this works, Black women are like the key to the Black vote. And so the fact that they were pretending to be Black women was on top of the issue. But this part about using the super predator key piece is really important, because there was no conversation about Trump and the way that he treated the exonerated five, right? But we have her being repeated all over the place saying super predator. We have issues where we're looking at the crime bill, but we're not talking about where some of that started. So using her as this prop up on this particular issue about crime was also key to kind of suppressing some of the vote. let's just be clear, though. I don't want to turn this into it was us that made this happen, because you have to understand that overwhelmingly white Americans voted for this guy. Like, some people may not have shown up to vote. Some people may have not been able to get to vote because of information that was being also disseminated falsely by the Russian IRA account. So they were basically telling people, oh, don't stay in line, just text your vote. That's voter suppression. So there was a combination of activities that were going on that includes the stuff that was happening on the ground and what we now know as digital voter suppression.
Questions, anybody?
So, considering the states that Hillary actually lost, is there data showing that the black vote was affected in those states? Like, is that Michigan, Wisconsin? Like, is there data, the actual data that's showing that in these states, the number of the percentage of black voters were fewer than whatever they should have been? What does that data actually look like?
Yeah, there's 2 data points. The first one I want to talk about is the Brennan Center just put out their report that shows that between 2016 and present, there were over 17 million voters who were suppressed, and they show the states. The states purged, I'm sorry, not suppressed, but actually purged. Wisconsin is like the reddest state of suppression. In other words, the way in which they were purging was up to 18%. The other part that I always love when people ask this question, because they always bring up Michigan. So the troll farm framework about them both being the same in Michigan is where you see that happen, i.e., 90,000 people made it to the polls and decided not to vote top of the ticket. They voted completely down ballot, but left the top voided.
Which is rare as hell.
Rare on.
I mean, most people, most it's the highest at the top of the ticket, and then it just drops as you go down.
No. So in this case, we have the evidence. 90K literally left out top of the ticket and voted all the way down. And also, let's be clear, he won by 77K. So just imagine if that wasn't being pushed out there as a narrative.
No. So were the Russian bots responsible for people not voting top of the ticket?
No, so there's a conversation about psych ops versus what people actually do. So if they believed that they were both the same, they would not vote top of the ticket. So if the message is sent out multiple times, which is disinformation, that these are the same people, i.e., by the way, super predator, but not exonerated 5, it somehow seems to miss people's thought process.
I'm sorry. Oh, so do we know what areas in Michigan? And I know I'm getting really specific, but if we're talking about 90K votes and we're going to assume, say, 80,000 of them were for Hillary, do we know what areas, like, was it in Detroit? You know, were those votes cast in Dearborn, areas that you would expect that she would win, or were they all over? We're talking about just the entire state of
right
Michigan.
Right now, we're talking about the entire state of Michigan. So now I can make a comparison, because the new data came out from the Brennan Center about which states that actually didn't vote top of the ticket in comparison to, by the way, those who were purged. Because the part that people still don't understand is, like, it's not just about people who are disenfranchised in a way that they don't think they should go out and vote, or being told wrong places to vote, polling places, text your vote, or all these other messages that they may believe that was being sent, by the way. And some of this messaging is still being repeated by, just FYI, some of this messaging is literally happening right now. But what's different is now we can now start to look at an overlay between what we now know as the states that were being purged and the overlay of the disinformation campaigns.
So so 2 parts. There has been talk about the potential breaking up of Facebook because of this. One, how do you feel about that? And just in general, what are next steps in terms of preventing this for 2020?
So
there
should be next steps, but like as of today, what the Senate Intelligence Committee just reported out, we're 3 years late.
Right.
Trying to figure out, oh, this happened.
And that's thank you to the Republican Party and Senator Mitch McConnell. That's why. Senator Mitch McConnell has refused, and Trump has refused to do anything when it comes to protecting our elections. They have made excuses, and McConnell's not only very late to the game by saying, oh, I'll go ahead and allow the bill to go forward, which the House overwhelmingly passed.
Yes.
Republicans voted for it to properly protect our elections, but Republicans in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump, haven't done a damn thing. So the onus is on them. That's just fact.
Fact. However, we still have to do something. Like, something has to happen. Like,
Right.
if just acknowledging it, of course, is not enough. Like, we're at the stage where I think more and more people, which, from my perspective, when my report first came out, nobody wanted to believe it even existed. Now we're at 3 years later saying, okay, this thing happened, and now we actually know who was specifically targeted. Now it's 3 years later, and of course the game has changed. Like they have morphed and figured out new ways
Right.
to come at us.
Man, we not know they access election centers.
Yes.
I mean, so we know that.
Yes.
And what we don't know is if they install a malware that's sitting there and it will wait to spring up come October and November.
Yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention very quickly about just the whole disinformation part that you mentioned about super predators. Well, like for me, and these weren't Russian bots, but super predators was a real conversation that people were having in the black community.
That's not the point. That's not the point. If you looked at
Don't dismiss it.
No, I'm not dismissing it. But what I'm saying is, if you look, the point is when she talked about cyber ops, when you look at the documentary The Great Hack, and when you look at how information is being fed, and how you're being deluged with the information, and the whole point is, how can I impact someone psychologically that then changes their perception when it comes to voting? Right. That documentary, The Great Hack, just laid it out, how Cambridge Analytica understood it, how they used it in other countries, and how they were very clear on how they were targeting white rural voters, and and how specific they were with certain phrases and how it was used. So the point was not that that wasn't an issue. The point that Shireen is saying is, how is it that you had this super elevated conversation with Hillary Clinton and super predators,
And nothing.
but you had way down here Donald Trump saying, taking the full-page ad out, and they should get the death penalty. And so if there's
not full page ad, just to like a full page ad to lynch these innocent boys in Central Park, that was not repeated. And I don't understand how we can have this conversation without.
No. What she's saying is, if you have like this much conversation here, and this little amount of conversation, what is actually driving this much conversation?
Right. So
when really what it should have been is sort of like, if there was a lot of conversation about black people, about super predators.
And if it was a both,
those aren't the same thing to me.
I'm actually going to agree with Malik here in the sense that I heard both, but that actually adds to what Shireen is saying, because it made many African Americans feel like they're the same, that they're not different. That's what drove voter participation down. And so I heard the same conversation about super predators, and I heard a whole lot. Yeah, I heard a whole lot about Central Park 5.
That wasn't. No, it wasn't. If you look at the data, Shireen, if you look at the data, go ahead.
In the data, the Central Park 5 conversation was not in it.
Right.
But
is this mainstream? Like, is there a difference between black media and like mainstream?
No,
I think you have to
I vote for mainstream.
Hold on one second, Shireen, go ahead.
So just so that we're clear about this, like, yes, our community has debates about this particular issue, but let's just also be clear. Hillary Clinton said super predator. She was the first lady. She did not write the bill. She did not vote for the bill. She did not have anything to do with the bill out of her saying super predator, but none of that was talked about. By the way, the person who wrote the thing is running for office right now. The person who voted for it is running for office right now.
But Hillary Clinton was the only...
Clinton, who is the president who signed off on it, was not punished for that, and you're punishing Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton.
No. One second. Hold on. One second. Because again, I want Shireen to explain this to people because this is the difference. What Shireen is saying, correct me if I'm wrong, what you're saying is if you look at the data, you had so much conversation. And you then ask yourself, and then when you start breaking apart the data, it's what actually is being reported. And so, again, if you take that, you take in the documentary The Great Hack and how certain phrases were used. What she's saying is that, wait a minute, if you had this super high number of mentions of super predator on these social media platforms, in tweets, on Facebook. So if you had super predator here and you had Central Park here,
yes,
that would say, wait, but hold up. How could you have that level of disparity? That's what I think she's saying when it comes to the data.
But I get that part, but I don't compare super predator in Trump's comments about Central Park 5. Because for me, super predators was something that actually fueled what we're now trying to undo in our criminal justice system.
And that full-page ad fueled the potential listing
one full-page ad in a one.
Hold up. We are not going. First of all, we're going to say actual facts. It was not just a single full-page ad.
Okay.
One second. It was a full-page ad. In multiple papers and
interviews
and multiple interviews.
Yep.
But again, I think you're getting caught up in the wrong thing.
No,
Listen. Listen. I'm not. First of all, I'm not comparing the law and the ad. What Shireen is laying out that we have. No,
I get it.
No, not the level. What she's laying out is the intensity of a discussion on social media, which now causes you to say, okay, what was fueling it? Because if it was a natural, organic conversation, you would have similar numbers in terms of folks talking about it. What she's saying is, because you would. What you had is...
We're talking about an actual law. Super predator was a mythical term that Hillary Clinton used to describe.
If you don't understand data, if you don't understand a clear, concerted communication strategy that drives a conversation, and so what she's saying is if you actually study the data and see where it was coming from, what you had is this...
A deluge.
No. You had a rocket ship fueled by jet fuel.
I get it.
That was driving this thing. That was throwing out so much stuff. And you virtually had a small amount over here. So the issue here is who was driving it and why were they driving it? And to her point, it was all designed to purposely turn African Americans against Hillary Clinton. Shireen, is that correct?
That is correct. Also, please be clear, as I'm sitting here, I have to understand, I grew up in Harlem. I was there in 1989. I will tell you what happened to my community when this whole thing went down. I will never forget it. I will also say that the fact that what I watched happen in comparison to that dude and Hillary Clinton is night and freaking day from my experience living through the rest of that.
Well, from my experience living in the United States of America, who actually heard Hillary Clinton make those comments about black, she made the comments. It was a mythical term that she decided to use, and she was out there advocating. Whether she didn't sign, whether she signed,
Malik,
we're still trying to undo.
No, Malik, you're hung up.
Why are we in a conversation comparing the
Here's
two.
why.
That's not what
I
didn't bring
Right,
that up.
that's why.
You said because your argument is that they should be
But she
here
had nothing
and they
to
shouldn't
do with
be
the
here.
law.
Super Predator was much bigger
No,
than what Trump said. and Trump's actions around Central Bank.
She had
There was a
nothing to
law
do
that
with
came
the
out
no.
of Super Predators. That was a law.
Okay, first of all,
signed it a law.
hold
There
up.
was legislation
No, you're wrong.
that came out.
Melik, you're wrong.
Super Predator.
Yes, it did.
No, it didn't.
So when she was talking about
Melik,
Super Predator,
Melik,
what was she
stop,
referring to?
stop.
Came out of
Shireen, go ahead.
1989, 90 conversations. 1989 is when he pushed that whole agenda.
No, I'm talking about Super Predator.
Excuse me, Shireen, finish.
Let's not do this.
Shireen, finish.
Okay, but let's not do
Don't interrupt then.
Okay,
Don't interrupt.
let's not do this.
Don't interrupt then. She won't do that.
Okay, well, let's not do this.
If you
then.
don't interrupt, she's not holding her hand up.
This is
So
what we
excuse
do
me,
on the
no.
show. But
I
we
am the
won't-
host of this
but we
show.
won't- but we
Excuse
don't
me.
hold hands up.
Excuse me.
That's
If you
exactly
don't
what we
interrupt,
do.
she doesn't have to hold her
But we
hand
don't
up.
have to do that at all.
But don't hold
So
your hand
go
up.
ahead and finish your
Shireen,
point.
hey, Melik, I got this. Shireen, finish your point.
1990, there was a whole history of like these Harvard execs or researchers who basically came up with broken windows. This is not Super Predator, but this is the lead to Super Predator conversation. And then we got to 1994. By the way, 1989 was Mayor Dinkins. 1994 was Rudy Giuliani. And he is the one that changed the policy to institute what is now in policy called stop and frisk. That's where the law came from, not Hillary Clinton and Super Predator.
And here's a piece. This conversation has nothing to do with her comment in terms of what was higher. What we're talking about here, with what Shireen's information, her report laid out, and now the Senate Intelligence Committee, is how Russian troll farms took keywords and phrases and used it to purposely drive the anxiety and targeting of black voters, and how they also use Black Lives Matter to drive it towards white voters, and that's how they did it. And the problem is we have a government that refuses to still address this
totally
issue.
get that.
And that's what's up.
I totally
Shireen,
get it.
if folks want the report you put together, where can folks go check it out?
Yeah, Stop is called, you can find it at stoponlinevawa.com. So Stop Online,
Stop Online.
VAW.com.
StopOnlineVAW.com.
And I'm actually in the final phase of our second report. So there's more to come.
All right, Shireen Mitchell, we really appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. The second annual Luxe Jazz experience taking place in Cabo, November 7th through the 11th. You're hearing, of course, that's Gerald Albright. It is an upscale destination with luxury accommodations, fine cuisine, top shelf libations, golf, spa, health, and wellness. So if you want to attend, you can go to lifeluxjazz.com to sign up. But those of you who don't want to go, you can still participate by going to gfntv.com. gfntv.com to watch the live stream. Get your live stream pass. It's 14 acts. Over 3 days, you'll be able to watch every single one of those concerts. I'll be broadcasting my show from there Thursday and Friday. But if you can't make it to Cabo, you can still participate by watching the live stream. So sign up at gfntv.com. It's $10.99, gfntv.com. 3 fantastic days of concerts, including, folks, Mark Curry, as I said, Joel Albright, Alex Bouillon, Raul Madon, Incognito, Pieces of a Dream, Kirk Whalum, Average White Band, Donna McClurkin, Shalea, Roy Ayers, Tom Brown, Ronnie Laws, and Ernest Quarles. It's going to be fantastic. Again, get your live streaming pass at gfntv.com. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.